So, Wonders of Sodor has been out for just under a month, and I'm gonna be honest, the game is really good. Dovetail really hit the jackpot when it came to making this game. It's clear to me that the game was a passion project for them. They clearly love and respect the Thomas franchise. The game is really well optimized and runs super well. The price of the game was also such a massive green flag, with the base game being only £30. Since the release, Dovetail has been very active with the community. They've made a post recently stating that we're working really hard behind the scenes to address some of the issues and bugs that we've been receiving, which is why we're prioritizing work through your feedback, which I have to say is really a smart move. For once, a game company is actually prioritizing the quality of the game rather than stuffing a buttload of crap that we don't even need. So that way we can enjoy the game being as polished as it can be before the release of the next DLC character. But with that in mind, there have been many people speculating on who's going to be the next DLC, or many people posting and making art of who they would like to see next in the game. So me, being the autistic nerd that I am, heard the call and immediately got to thinking. Now, I'm not just gonna give my opinions on which character to add next, but I am also going to provide a way to make it work in the game as well. So let's get started on what characters I think would be a great addition to Thomas Wonders of Sodor. Number 1. The first engine on our list is Edward. It makes perfect sense for him to be added, as he was one of the members of the original cast, and was a huge character in helping Thomas be less of a prick in the books, and I also believe the show as well. Number 2 would be Stanley. Stanley was first shown in Thomas the Great Discovery, which, for one, I think is also a really good film, but it's where complications arose in my head. How exactly would Dovetail implement a character that debuted in a movie? This is where I think Dovetail could possibly add something new to the game. Rather than just going through stories of the show, we can also play through the events of the movie. That way we would have more content and more of a reason to purchase the DLCs. Don't get me wrong, I still think the DLCs are worth it, but for the characters that have more scenes in a movie rather than in a show, I think it's worth it and probably makes a lot more sense. Number 3 is Hero. Hero is a really good addition to the game. I think he is quite an interesting story, and I reckon Dovetail could potentially even do a mission solely based upon his first trip through Sodor. But with Hero being added, and with my previous suggestion, it would only make sense for our 4th pick to be Spencer. Spencer and Gordon have quite a lot of tension, and it would be nice to see what else could be added with him. I also think that it would be cool if there was a race mode added, so then that way we can race NPC trains across Sodor, and it gives us just that extra bit of content that I feel like might be missing a little bit. But this also leads into my next pick. With the addition of a racing mode, it would only make sense if we added someone from a movie about racing, so I think for number 5 I have to go with the Flying Scotsman. The actual in real life train is extremely iconic, and sadly I never got to see it when it came down to Plymouth, but I honestly think it'd be really great to see, and it would be really awesome to revisit him and Gordon's sibling rivalry again. So far I've only mentioned steam engines, but what about the diesels? Who do I think would fit into this hopefully soon to be large roster of characters? Well, the first diesel I would want to add is Diesel 10. We already have Diesel, so why not add the big bad of the lot? Introducing Diesel 10 gives us many different stories to adapt, like the Day of the Diesels and Calling All Engines. But with these stories being adapted, this means we will have to add a bunch of content if we're doing movie adaptations, which is obviously going to take time. Like the Day of the Diesels, we need to have a new location with the steam and diesel works. Along with that, we would also need a lot of new engines on Sodor for the movie to work. Luckily, with Calling All Engines, all we would really need is our second pick, Arian Burr. which I will count as one pick, as you can't really have one twin without the other. The two are always causing trouble, and they fit right in with the rest of the cast of characters. For number 3, however, I'd have to go with Mavis. Despite not having a decent amount of screen time in the show, she is still a very popular character among fans, and honestly, I think it'd be nice to have a breath of fresh air and have a Diesel who isn't trying to cause confusion and delay. Which is probably why it makes sense to have Salty be number 4. Salty may not have too much to offer, but I feel like we need a character who's a bit on the crazy side. Besides, the DLC doesn't need to come with a mission if it's too hard. He could release alongside Brandon Docks. Now, I am by no means saying that the location itself needs to be locked behind the paywall, because 1, that's just like unfair to the players, and 2, cutting off a location is actually kind of insane, so have the location be a part of the update, and then have Salty release as a DLC alongside it. Then for the 5th and final pick for the Diesels, I'd have to give the last option to Paxton. I honestly can't think of another Diesel who deserves to be added. He's quite a quirky Diesel, but he can also get the job done when it's asked of him. Like, now it wouldn't be fair to cut off the video without having some honourable mentions, as there are a lot of characters that I believe deserve a chance to be included in the game. This is because some of them either have an interesting story, or they may even add a breath of fresh air in terms of how we play or which engines we use. So that being said, our first honourable mention has to go to the narrow gauge engines. More specifically, Skarloey, Rheneas, and Duncan. Whether or not they come separately, one by one, or in a DLC together is completely up to Dovetail, and I have no say in it whatsoever. But I think it would be pretty cool to get a DLC with a bunch of characters in one. And if my memory serves correctly, I believe there is also location in the game right now to do with the Skarloey Railway, so adding them in one big bundle and giving us a place to roam would honestly be really cool. It does look like Dovetail has them in mind, so I expect them to come to the game in the near future. For the second honourable mention, I would have to go with Henry. Henry, much like Edward, is already a part of the core group. Most notably, we already have his location of the tunnel in the game, so there is no doubt that once he's added, we will get the story of him being bricked up.
Oh, I am stiff, he groaned.
In the tunnel, and then let out to help Gordon with the express. There could also be a story mission to do with the glow-in-the-dark paint from the CGI series. This is also another thing I wanted to point out and talk about, is that when we play, regardless if it's story or free roam, we get AP. However, as of recording, there isn't actually anything to do with it, let alone how much we have accumulated in the game. So I think it would be cool if we could get customization for the engines. Nothing like using our money to buy them, but by playing over time and gaining AP and purchasing them. Similar to how Nowhere Railway does the transactions on Roblox. But with that out of the way, our third pick is also a part of the main crew. Of course, we have to go with Toby. Toby would be a nice addition to the roster of characters. He would have many stories to adapt, and it would be nice to have more of a variety of choice when it comes to the engines. We already have regular steam engines and diesels, but I think it would be cool to have a tram engine on Sodor. With that, we are on our fourth pick of the honourable mentions. It is a tie between Charlie and
Boko!
Boko! Boko. I had a hard time picking between the two, as they both would have something nice to add. Boko, however, doesn't really get nearly as much screen time as he deserves, so it would be nice to have more Boko content, even if he is simply added to the game with no stories. Now, for our fifth and final honourable mention. It is a bit of a controversial choice. Many people might not like this, but it wouldn't be a Jinx video without saying something that's going to annoy a few people, but without further ado, my final pick is an engine that many people choose not to acknowledge. The last engine I would want to see added to Thomas Wonders of Sodor is... Lady. Oh, okay, calm, please. At least hear me out, alright? Ignoring all the self-insert OC stuff that Britt Allcroft did, Lady has an amazing design, and Lady is one of the few engines that I can actually admire for her design alone. It would make sense for her to be added, as in the Diesel 10 section of the video I neglected to mention Thomas and Magic Railroad, despite it being one of the films I'd find myself rewatching, and a lot of people dislike the movie, and despite being a defender of the movie, I too can find a lot of things I critique a lot. It could be because it makes no sense to the overall plot, or just because I'm in a film course in college. However, if you're one of the unlucky few who actually know me in real life, I've been collecting a lot of the Lady collectibles, as it was something I always wanted as a kid, and because of how intriguing her design was. The Magic Railroad story is one that has a lot of weird story choices. However, with the Shining Time reference in the form of collectibles, and yes, I am aware that Shining Time was a TV show, not just the location from the film. With all that being said, I think even if it is a small margin of people who would want her in the game, at the end of the day she would be a DLC character, and if people don't want to get Lady, they can just choose not to get her. Unless of course you have the deluxe edition, so at the end of the day, even if you do have her, you aren't exactly being forced to use her in-game. So with all that being said, I hope you all enjoy. If you have a character that I didn't mention and wasn't picked in this video, then feel free to leave them down in the comments, as I would honestly love to see what other characters the rest of the community would want to see in the game. Maybe I'll even make a video on fan picks, but until then, I'm Jinx, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye!
It's a summer Sunday and I'm under a cloud that shades my happiest blunder. But catching the wave of another, this easy life. Oh, I never thought that I